The paradox of the lone wolf. A journey into solitude and connection. Picture this. You're standing in the middle of a bustling party. Laughter echoes through the room. Conversations flow like rivers converging and diverging, and the energy is electric. Yet, despite being surrounded by dozens of people, you feel utterly alone. Not lonely, alone. There's a difference, and if you've ever experienced this moment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're witnessing the world through the eyes of what Germans call an Einzelgänger, the lone wolf. But here's where the story gets interesting. This isn't a tale of antisocial behavior or misanthropy. This is the story of a paradox that millions of people live with every single day. The simultaneous craving for deep human connection and the desperate need for solitude. It's the story of individuals who find their greatest strength in isolation, yet create their most cherished memories with others. It's the story of the lone wolf, and it might just be your story too. The journey begins with a fundamental question that haunts many of us. Why am I like this? Is it nature or nurture? Were we born with brains wired differently? Or did life experiences shape us into creatures who find refuge in solitude? The truth, like most truths about human nature, is probably somewhere in the complex intersection of both. Consider the lone wolf in nature, not actually the antisocial outcast that popular culture portrays, but often the scout, the explorer, the one who ventures beyond the pack's territory to discover new hunting grounds. These wolves aren't antisocial. They're serving a crucial function for the survival of the group, even while operating independently. The human lone wolf operates on a similar principle, though the territory they're exploring isn't physical. It's psychological, creative, and spiritual. Many lone wolves describe their childhood as a series of moments where they felt different, where the energy of groups felt overwhelming rather than energizing. They're the children who preferred the quiet corner with a book over the chaos of the playground, who found deep satisfaction in solitary activities that others might consider boring. But this isn't about shyness or social anxiety, though those can certainly be contributing factors. This is about a fundamental difference in how the brain processes social stimulation. Think about it this way. Imagine your brain has a social battery, but it's not the same capacity as everyone else's. While some people have industrial-grade batteries that can power through hours of social interaction and actually gain charge from group energy, lone wolves operate on a different system entirely. Their batteries are more like high-performance devices that burn bright but need frequent recharging in solitude. The modern world is not designed for the lone wolf. We live in an era of constant connectivity, open office spaces, endless meetings, and social media that never sleeps. For someone whose brain becomes overstimulated by noise, conversation, and social energy, navigating daily life can feel like trying to meditate in the middle of a rock concert. But here's what's fascinating. This isn't weakness. This is a different kind of strength that our society often fails to recognize. The lone wolf's brain is like a highly sensitive instrument. It picks up on subtleties that others miss, processes information more deeply, and often sees patterns and connections that escape those caught up in the immediate energy of group dynamics. Consider the great innovators, artists, and thinkers throughout history. Einstein spent hours alone with his thoughts. Virginia Woolf found her greatest insights in solitude. Steve Jobs famously took long walks alone to think through complex problems. These weren't antisocial hermits. They were individuals who understood that their best work, their deepest insights, came from periods of deliberate isolation. This is where the paradox deepens. The lone wolf doesn't hate people. Often, they love people deeply, perhaps more deeply than those who surround themselves with constant companionship. But they love people in a different way. They prefer quality over quantity, depth over breadth. A lone wolf might have just a few close friends, but know them with an intimacy that rivals family bonds. They might see these friends only a few times a year, but each interaction is meaningful. charged with genuine connection rather than social obligation. Living as a lone wolf is an art form, and like any art, it requires intentionality, practice, and balance. It's not about becoming a hermit who retreats from the world entirely. That's not sustainable, nor is it healthy. Instead, it's about understanding your own rhythms and needs, and designing a life that honors them while still maintaining meaningful connections with others. The skilled lone wolf learns to read their own energy levels like a pilot reads instrument panels. They know when their social battery is running low before it hits empty. They recognize the signs, the slight irritation at conversations that once seemed interesting, the feeling of being trapped even in the company of people they love, the desperate craving for silence and space. Most importantly, they've learned not to fight these signals, but to honor them. This means making choices that others might not understand. It means leaving parties early, not because you're not having fun, but because you can feel your energy depleting and know that staying longer will require days to recover. It means choosing a career path that allows for periods of independent work rather than constant collaboration, even if it means turning down opportunities that seem attractive to others. It means designing your living space as a sanctuary, a place where you can fully decompress and recharge. But here's the crucial part. It also means being strategic about when and how you engage with others. The lone wolf doesn't avoid all social interaction. They curate it. They choose their battles, their celebrations, their collaborations carefully. When they do engage, they're fully present, fully energized, and often more engaging than those who spread their social energy thin across numerous shallow interactions. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Ask any lone wolf about their most treasured memories, and something interesting happens. Almost invariably, these memories involve other people. The quiet conversation that lasted until dawn, the moment of shared laughter with a colleague, the deep connection with a romantic partner, the adventure shared with a small group of close friends. This reveals one of the most profound paradoxes of the lone wolf existence. They need solitude to recharge, but they need connection to truly live. It's not contradiction. It's complementarity. The periods of solitude aren't about avoiding people. They're about preparing for people. They're about processing the rich experiences and deep connections when they do occur. Think of it like this. While others might eat emotional fast food, quick, easy social interactions that provide immediate satisfaction, but little lasting nourishment, lone wolves prefer elaborate, home-cooked meals that take time to prepare and even more time to fully digest and appreciate. They can't consume these rich experiences as frequently, but when they do, they extract every bit of meaning and sustenance from them. This is why lone wolves often form incredibly strong, lasting relationships. When someone who carefully guards their energy chooses to spend it on you, that choice carries weight. When someone who treasures silence chooses to fill it with conversation with you, those words matter. The relationships that lone wolves form are often characterized by depth, authenticity, and kind of intimacy that can be rare in our increasingly connected but often superficial world. There's a reason why so many artists, writers, innovators, and deep thinkers identify as lone wolves. Solitude isn't just a preference for these individuals. It's a necessity for their creative and intellectual work. In the quiet spaces between social interactions, something magical happens. The mind, freed from the constant input and response demands of social interaction, begins to make unexpected connections. Creativity requires a kind of mental freedom that's difficult to achieve in group settings. It requires the ability to follow thoughts to their logical and illogical conclusions without having to explain or justify the journey to others. It requires the space to be wrong, to explore dead ends, to sit with questions without immediately seeking answers from others. The lone wolf's periods of solitude become laboratories for the mind. Ideas that were absorbed during social interactions get processed, combined with other thoughts and experiences, and transformed into something new. This is why many lone wolves report having their best ideas during solitary activities, walking alone, sitting in quiet reflection, or engaging in repetitive tasks that free the mind to wander. But here's what makes this even more interesting. When lone wolves do share their insights in their work, their art, their conversations, these insights often have a depth and originality that reflects the incubation period they've had in solitude. They're not just regurgitating ideas they've heard from others. They're offering something that has been genuinely processed and transformed through their unique perspective. Let's address the elephant in the room: anxiety. Many lone wolves struggle with social anxiety, and it's important to acknowledge this without pathologizing the lone wolf lifestyle itself. There's a difference between choosing solitude from a place of strength and retreating into isolation from fear. Social anxiety can certainly contribute to lone wolf tendencies, but it's not the defining characteristic. Many lone wolves are perfectly capable of social interaction and even excel at it when they choose to engage. The difference is that for them, social interaction requires more energy and recovery time than it does for others. It's not that they can't handle social situations, it's that they process them differently. The key is learning to distinguish between healthy solitude and anxiety-driven isolation. Healthy solitude is restorative, creative, and chosen. It's a conscious decision to step back and recharge. Anxiety-driven isolation, on the other hand, is often characterized by avoidance, fear, and a sense of being trapped by your own limitations. For many lone wolves, addressing anxiety doesn't mean forcing themselves to become more social. It means becoming more intentional about their social choices. It means learning to engage with others from a place of strength rather than obligation. It means recognizing that their need for solitude is valid and doesn't need to be fixed. We live in an age of unprecedented connectivity, and this presents unique challenges for the lone wolf. Social media promises connection, but often delivers a kind of shallow engagement that can be particularly draining for those who prefer depth over breadth in their relationships. The constant notifications, the pressure to maintain an online presence, the expectation of immediate response, all of these can feel overwhelming to someone who values quiet reflection and intentional communication. Yet technology also offers opportunities. The internet has connected lone wolves across the globe, allowing them to find others who share their perspective and experiences. Online communities can provide a sense of belonging without the energy drain of in-person social interaction. Digital tools can allow for more asynchronous communication, giving lone wolves the time they need to process and respond thoughtfully. The challenge is learning to use technology intentionally rather than being used by it. This might mean turning off notifications during certain hours, choosing text over phone calls, or using social media more as a creative outlet than a social obligation. It means recognizing that digital connection, while valuable, cannot completely replace the deep, meaningful relationships that lone wolves crave. One of the most beautiful aspects of the lone wolf experience is the discovery of others who share this perspective. When lone wolves find each other, something magical happens. There's an immediate recognition, an understanding that doesn't need to be explained. These connections often form the backbone of the lone wolf's social life. Relationships with people who understand the need for space, who don't take it personally when you need to retreat, who can pick up conversations months later as if no time has passed. These relationships are characterized by a particular kind of respect and understanding. There's no pressure to constantly communicate, no guilt about needing space, no judgment about preferring quality time over quantity time. These are the people who understand that love and friendship can exist in the spaces between interactions, that caring about someone doesn't require constant demonstration. Building these relationships often requires a different approach than traditional friendship formation. It might mean being more direct about your needs and boundaries, more honest about your social patterns, more intentional about the time you do spend together. But the relationships that result from this honest foundation often prove to be the most enduring and meaningful. Here's something that might surprise you. Many natural leaders are lone wolves. This seems contradictory. How can someone who prefers solitude lead groups of people? But when you think about it more deeply, it makes perfect sense. Leadership often requires the ability to step back and see the bigger picture, to process complex information without being swayed by group dynamics, to make decisions that might be unpopular in the moment that serve the long-term good. These are all skills that lone wolves develop naturally through their periods of solitary reflection. Moreover, lone wolf leaders often bring a particular kind of authenticity to their roles. Because they're not motivated by the desire to please everyone or to maintain constant social approval, they can make decisions based on principles rather than popularity. They're often more willing to have difficult conversations, to challenge groupthink, to take unpopular stands when necessary. The key for lone wolf leaders is learning to balance their need for solitude with the demands of leadership. This might mean scheduling regular periods of retreat and reflection, building teams that can operate independently when needed, or finding ways to lead that don't require constant interpersonal interaction. Perhaps one of the most important skills any lone wolf can develop is the art of saying no. This isn't about being antisocial or selfish. It's about being honest about your own needs and limitations. When you know that social interaction requires significant energy and recovery time, every social commitment becomes a strategic decision. This means learning to decline invitations, not because you don't care about the people involved, but because you care about them enough to want to be fully present when you do spend time together. It means explaining to friends and family that your need for space isn't personal. It's just how you operate most effectively. The art of saying no also extends to professional situations. This might mean negotiating for more independent work time, avoiding committees and meetings that don't require your specific input, or choosing career paths that align with your natural working style rather than fighting against it. But here's the important part. Learning to say no to things that drain you creates space to say yes to things that energize and fulfill you. It's not about becoming isolated. It's about becoming more intentional about how you use your limited social energy. There's something profoundly beautiful about learning to be alone with yourself. For lone wolves, solitude isn't just about recharging, it's about connection. Connection with your own thoughts, your own creativity, your own inner world. It's about developing a relationship with yourself that's as rich and meaningful as any relationship with another person. This internal relationship becomes the foundation for all other relationships. When you're comfortable with your own company, when you've learned to find joy and fulfillment in solitude, you bring a different energy to your interactions with others. You're not desperately seeking validation or trying to fill a void. You're sharing your fullness with others. This doesn't mean becoming narcissistic or self-absorbed. Instead, it means developing a healthy self-awareness, understanding your own patterns and needs, and learning to meet many of your own emotional needs independently. This actually makes you a better friend, partner, and colleague because you're not placing the burden of your emotional well-being entirely on others. The experience of being a lone wolf varies significantly across cultures. In some societies, particularly those that value collectivism and group harmony, being a lone wolf can feel particularly challenging. The pressure to conform, to participate in group activities, to prioritize family and community obligations over individual needs can create significant stress for those who operate differently. Yet every culture has its lone wolves, the artists, the mystics, the innovators, the deep thinkers who operate somewhat outside the mainstream. Often, these individuals serve important functions in their societies, bringing fresh perspectives, creative solutions, and innovative ideas that benefit everyone. Understanding the cultural context of your lone wolf tendencies can be helpful. It can explain why you might feel particularly out of place in certain environments, or why your family might not understand your need for solitude. It can also help you find ways to honor your nature while still respecting cultural expectations and maintaining important relationships. As our world becomes increasingly connected and stimulating, the need for intentional solitude becomes more important than ever. The lone wolf perspective isn't a relic of the past. It's a necessary counterbalance to our hyper-connected world. We're beginning to see more recognition of different personality types and working styles. Companies are creating quiet spaces and offering flexible work arrangements. Mental health professionals are distinguishing between healthy solitude and problematic isolation. Society is slowly beginning to understand that introversion and the need for solitude aren't problems to be solved, but natural variations in human temperament. This shift creates opportunities for lone wolves to thrive in ways that might not have been possible in previous generations. It becomes easier to find careers, relationships, and lifestyles that honor your natural rhythms rather than forcing you to constantly swim against your own current. There's a particular kind of wisdom that comes from spending significant time in solitude and reflection. It's the wisdom of knowing yourself deeply, of understanding your own patterns and motivations, of having processed your experiences thoroughly rather than just reacting to them. Lone wolves often develop a keen sense of observation, both of themselves and others. They notice subtleties that others miss because they have the mental space to process what they're seeing. They often have insights into human nature that come from stepping back and observing rather than being constantly caught up in the flow of social interaction. This wisdom often makes lone wolves valuable friends and advisors. People seek them out for their perspective precisely because they know that a lone wolf's advice comes from careful consideration rather than quick reaction. They trust that someone who chooses their words carefully will have something worthwhile to say. The ultimate wisdom of the lone wolf lifestyle lies in embracing the paradox rather than trying to resolve it. You don't have to choose between being alone and being connected. You can be both. You don't have to apologize for your need for solitude or force yourself into more social situations than feel comfortable. Instead, you can design a life that honors both sides of your nature. You can cultivate deep, meaningful relationships while also protecting your need for solitude. You can contribute to your community and profession while also maintaining your independence. You can be fully engaged with the world while also retreating from it when necessary. The key is understanding that this isn't a flaw to be corrected, but a natural variation in human temperament. Just as the ecosystem needs both pack animals and solitary creatures, human society benefits from both extroverts who thrive in groups and lone wolves who bring the insights that come from solitary reflection. If you recognize yourself in this description, if you've felt the pull of solitude and the simultaneous craving for connection, then this is your call to adventure. The adventure isn't about changing who you are. It's about fully becoming who you are. It's about designing a life that honors your natural rhythms and needs while still allowing you to contribute your unique gifts to the world. This might mean making some difficult choices. It might mean disappointing people who don't understand your need for space. It might mean forging a path that looks different from what others expect. But it also means discovering the deep satisfaction that comes from living authentically, from honoring your own nature, rather than fighting against it. The world needs lone wolves. It needs people who can step back and see the bigger picture, who can think deeply and independently, who can bring fresh perspectives and innovative solutions. It needs the particular kind of wisdom that comes from solitary reflection and the particular kind of connection that comes from choosing carefully where to invest your social energy. Your journey as a lone wolf isn't about isolation. It's about integration. It's about finding ways to honor your need for solitude while still maintaining meaningful connections with others. It's about understanding that you can be both independent and interdependent, both solitary and connected. The path of the lone wolf is not always easy, but it is deeply rewarding. It offers the opportunity to know yourself in ways that aren't possible when you're constantly responding to the needs and expectations of others. It offers the chance to develop your own unique perspective and to contribute something genuinely original to the world. So embrace the paradox. Celebrate your need for solitude while also nurturing your connections with others. Design a life that honors your natural rhythms while still allowing you to engage meaningfully with the world. And remember, you're not alone in being alone. You're part of a tribe of individuals who understand that sometimes the greatest connection comes from the courage to be authentically yourself, even when that self needs significant time apart from others. The lone wolf's journey is ultimately about finding balance between solitude and connection, between independence and interdependence, between honoring your own needs and contributing to something larger than yourself. It's about understanding that you don't have to choose between being alone and being connected. You can be both, and in that balance, you might just find a way of living that is both deeply satisfying and genuinely meaningful. This is the paradox of the lone wolf. In learning to be alone, we discover how to truly connect. In accepting our need for solitude, we become more present when we choose to engage. In honoring our authentic nature, we give others permission to do the same. And in that gift, the gift of authentic being, we offer something truly valuable to a world that desperately needs more depth, more reflection, and more genuine connection. The lone wolf's path is not about avoiding the world. It's about engaging with it on your own terms, from a place of strength and authenticity, rather than obligation and exhaustion. It's about recognizing that your way of being in the world is not just valid but valuable, not just acceptable but necessary. Welcome to the pack of lone wolves, a contradiction that somehow makes perfect sense. A community of individuals who understand the beauty of solitude and the necessity of connection. Your journey has just begun.